Welcome. You're tuned into Life is a Sacred Journey. Every week, we bring a new perspective to aging and caregiving. Here is your host, Michelle Pope.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Life is a Sacred Journey, as you know, is a platform that is seen all over the world. So wherever you are, welcome back. It's 8 a.m. in Northern California. As I look out my window here in Berkeley, it's really foggy, but it's a Memorial Day weekend. So we're going to have a long weekend, and we're going to give homage and honor to all of our folks that were in the service and protected us, and those that, lost their lives protecting us. And so we're going to think about that this weekend. I have a new and exciting guest here this morning. We've been celebrating the woman, the divine spirit, as my guest last week said, Kathy Kamai, the divine spirit. And what that means is the divine spirit lives in all of us, even you fellas out there. So I hate to tell you. Having raised a son, I know that when we allow men to also be gentle, to be kind and have empathy, that divine woman piece in them also helps them to grow and be better fathers, better citizens, better husbands, better partners, all those things. And so this morning, I am excited because as you know, I was at the women's conference that was held in the East Bay in March, April, whenever. You know how I live my life. It's crazy, right? And I was excited because I was around all these really incredible women, but I live in a space of energy, right? And so Kathy Kamai was here because she was the first energy that I met when I walked into that space. And then I walked up to this table because, as you all know, I love wine. Wine is good. Red wine is really good for you, by the way. And it was Teneral Cellars. And these beautiful women were behind the table there, and we started chatting it up. And I realized that I was speaking to people who were change makers, people who were not just talking about selling wine and wanting me to buy a bottle of wine, but there was an incredible story behind this wine, these bottles of wine. And so later on in the afternoon, I had the opportunity to sit into a breakout group where one of the founding individuals of Teneral Cellars was there giving a presentation. And then you know how I am, I sit in the front seat. I'm not scared. I love sitting in the front seat. And I sat in the front seat, and Jill's energy popped at me. And then she started talking about the heart, and that the heart has a brain. And she started breaking down the way we kind of look at our lives and make decisions. And I said, okay, she's got to come to Life is a Sacred Journey, because all of you are those folks that are looking and seeking, trying to figure out, how do we not crash into each other and do harm? How do we grow inside so that we can change the world one person at a time? And as you know, my mantra, and it will be my mantra for the rest of my life, is be the light, be the change. And so Jill, Osur, thank you so much for coming to Life is a Sacred Journey this morning. In this week of great pain for many of us, this morning I was crying again on the way to work, just thinking about those little babies and the people at the grocery store and all of that. I feel more compelled to bring stories of enlightenment and places where we are being a humanity together, making the change that we want to see in this time of great grief and anguish and surprise and how come and all of that. So thank you for bringing the story of Teneral Cellars to us this morning. And I'm so excited to have you here on Life is a Sacred Journey. So welcome.
Thank you. No, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm so happy you had my friend Kathy on last week. I have her ring on, I have her belt on, but I can't.
Wait a minute. Look at here. Look at here. Yes,
I
indeed.
you know what? I didn't wear the earrings, but let's see. I got her belt on. This belt, it's so beautiful. Look at this belt.
Oh my God.
Beautiful that is. Goes with my ring. I normally have my necklace on too, and I just, it's 8:00 in the morning this morning. I'm not.
That's okay. That's okay.
This morning.
But isn't it, you see the connection? It's so amazing, you guys. It's that connection, that human spirit connection, that now there's 3 of us in the sisterhood of sister friend connection. So
when I stepped into her space, I just said I need to be in her energy, and I believe everything is energy. And so much of my journey from going from being untamed to tapping into my full capacity and leading with my head, heart, and gut has been around, working. I mentioned that in my speech, working with Dr. Brenda Wade, who is, a healer, a holistic psychologist. But before she was all of that and America's Love Doctor, she was a hard brain scientist, and so taught us so much about that. But thank you for mentioning as well. We need to be thinking about the tragedy that happened this week, because what we do in this moment will define the next chapter of our collective story. And we were going to release our Title IX release this week, and it just doesn't feel right to do that. We need to be holding the space and the place right now for families to grieve, and for all of us to figure out what our next steps are going to be, because we're not the only country with mental illness. And you look at all the problems we have, other countries have, and they have solved this problem. And enough is enough. And it's just, I'm just so tired of seeing our babies being killed, as you said.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah. And Jill, we in your, you use incredible words, because I believe in the power of words. And one of the things that I wrote that you said during that day is about having crucial conversations. And crucial conversations not only fit this opening topic or this opening reflection that you and I are having, but it also fits into why Teneral Cellars is doing the work, the philanthropic work with women, helping young people really vision their lives and seeing themselves in a different way. And then specifically lifting up women of color. I know that sometimes I get all kinds of hate. Maybe this way, all kinds of hate stuff, because this is a poster that came from the exhibition that we had at the Oakland Museum about futuristic sci-fi. It was incredible. I think it still might be there, but it says elevate Black space. And I will always, after each podcast, get someone who thinks that means that I am not a humanitarian, but they don't get the messaging. And so you get that messaging and what that means. So would you talk about your mission and vision at Teneral Cellars, and kind of talk about why you're feeling that this is the time that we need to lift up women, lift up people of color and businesses?
Yeah, no, happy to. I mean, for me, and I'm not dissimilar from a lot of women in particular, that when, we were hit with the onslaught of COVID and, in 2020, and for me, I was sitting at home and it was following the murders of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. And I was sitting here just saying, what am I doing as a leader in the wine industry to be part of the solutions that I wanted to see in the world? And I was part of another company where I was a major owner. I held a position of president, but I had realized how tamed I had become in this industry that is steeped in tradition and dominated by rich white men. That's just a fact. And how me, as a former collegiate athlete, a catcher at the University of California, Berkeley, where I had to use my voice to be successful, and I've been on the front lines of a lot of social and racial justice fights. How did I become so tamed? And I realized that my business partner and I, we just had such different leadership styles, because he's from the UK and he believes in chain of command, and so for me, someone who comes in the world thinking about teamwork and collaboration and co-creating, and sure, I'm driven and I can be tough, but I don't like to do things by myself. I believe that we are better together. And so I realized that I had just lost a lot of myself because I was trying to keep him happy, because when he was happy, our 54 employees were happy. And so I just got to the point where I said, I need to do something different, and I need to be part of the change that I want to see in the world. My personal and professional mission have always been to elevate women and inspire change. But if we don't do things disruptively different, we're not going to make change. And I had been reading a study that I mentioned in my talk from the Global Economic Forum that said, if we don't do things disruptively different, it will still take 208 years in this country for women to achieve full equality. Now, we all know you add equity in there and the numbers got to be, a lot bigger. Yep. So I thought of, when I actually just thought about it and gave myself permission, Teneral Cellars just came pouring out of me. And part of that was I had sat there at my desk and I did some research, and I'm like, there's only 10% female winemakers, 0.1% Black winemakers, men and women. Female sommeliers are still making 70 cents on the dollar to their male counterparts. Yeah. And yes, we see a lot of women in tasting rooms, a lot of women in restaurants as well on the front end. But when you look at the industry as a whole, there are very few women in leadership positions and even fewer women of color. And yet almost 70% of all wines are purchased by women, and the industry doesn't reflect its largest customer. So it was just time. And I just said, and for me to have been silenced, I just kept thinking, why not harness the power of business for good? And why not use wine as a conduit for change? So when we open a bottle, we open a conversation. And the necessary conversations. And, good businesses need recurring streams of revenue. So I created a wine club, called The Swarm, which is, when a swarm of dragonflies come together. And for me, I chose the dragonfly because the dragonfly represents that transformation that I want to see. But it also reminds me to be the light. And we believe at Teneral Cellars that if we all take actions every day to be part of the solution, that the cumulative effect of those actions can create that transformation, which is what we call the dragonfly effect. And the word teneral is when a dragonfly comes out of its cast and it's in its most vulnerable state, and its wings are colorless and it can't fly. And within days, it gets its full color, spreads its wings, and takes off with amazing power and grace. And that represents women to me. Yeah. And I was that vulnerable dragonfly. I was stuck in this position, leaving the best part of myself at the door on most days. And so I needed to spread my wings and take off. And so I created Teneral Cellars to reflect the industry's largest customer, which is women. And so I want to building a beautifully diverse company. I want to be on purpose the minority in my business in 5 years, because that's disruption. We have 100% of our vendors and suppliers are women-owned businesses. And so whenever I speak, I was speaking at NABO last week, I said, I challenge each of you, is there one product or service in your company that isn't being provided by a woman-owned business? And if it is, change that. That is a real action you can take. And when women support women, only great things happen. I mean, this idea that we are fighting for one job is it's a made up marketing ploy from people that are trying to keep the power over here. And we know from study after study that when women do better, everyone does better. So I just wanted to create a wine brand where the wine is great. It's sustainably farmed and produced. So you're getting the best wine, that we give back 10% of our profits to charities that are doing the work on the ground, and that empower women and fight for gender and racial equality. So our first full year last year in 2021, we donated. Yeah, that was, because we were COVID born. So we launched in October 2020, but 2021, we donated $51,000 to organizations like the National Women's Law Center, Endometriosis Foundation of America, the Stonewall Gives Back Initiative, the World Central Kitchen, Generation W, and then some smaller charities that we did some fundraisers with. And this year we're partnering with the Women of the Vine and Spirits Foundation, and they're to provide a minimum of 22 scholarships to women that either want to get into the wine industry, or if they're in, they can get further professional development to move up the ladders into leadership positions. And so, our first quarter, we did that 208 Disrupt Now for Women's History Month, and we wanted to educate people on what the study was, give a bunch of conversation starters so that when you get the wine and you open the box, you invite your friends over, you open the wine and have that necessary conversation. Yeah. And then we'll release this next week, but we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Title IX. And, celebrating all of the great accomplishments, but also all the work that needs to be done. I believe the fact is I think it's less than 5% of colleges are in compliance with Title IX. And so there's a lot of work that still has to be done, but we're proud to be partnering with Billie Jean King and her leadership initiative. She fights every day for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in corporate America. She's partnering with Demand 9 on this Title IX initiative and the National Women's Law Center and the Women's Sports Foundation. But she's allowing us to use her likeness on a bottle. So we have an all-in Zinfandel with her picture on it, and $5 from every bottle sold will go back to her leadership initiative. So we're excited next week when we put this out there to really have those conversations, because the challenging thing about Title IX is it's women of color, it's underserved, it's transgender athletes. There's still groups of people that are being left behind, and it's not dissimilar from every other industry, right? It's always the same people that are getting left behind, and we need to have those necessary conversations. And I like that Demand 9 too is, they have a petition out to try to get 1 million signatures. So we're going to have that up on our website so that they could take that petition to Congress and fight, because in the last 4 years, there have been things that have been taken away from Title IX. And it's one of the most important pieces of federal legislation that we've passed. I mean, it really was just an add-on to the civil rights bill, because the civil rights bill never addressed things in federally funded institutions. And so, yes, sports kind of is the face for Title IX, but it's so much more than that. And so these are necessary conversations. And then with what happened this week, I mean, we need to be talking about gun violence. We need to also be talking about, women's rights to choose, because for me, it should not be a political issue. And so and even the gun issue should not be a political issue. Everything has been politicized in our country, and we're forgetting where is the healthy conversations to create safe spaces, to create, sensible laws and things. But the government shouldn't be making decisions for women, and the government shouldn't the lobbyists shouldn't be making decisions on on guns. I'm sorry, there were pistols and rifles when the Constitution was created. There was not semi-automatic weapons. So
exactly.
Yeah. So and I know as a young brand, I mean, we walk that line of we want to have the tough conversations, but as you say, there's always somebody that'll come back and say, you're not this or that. Look, our heart and our minds are in the right place. We're trying to change this industry so we can change other industries, and our intentions are pure. Now, we're not going to be perfect, but we are trying to do the right thing. And I think the most important thing is that women in general have to be more conscious and intentional about supporting each other, because it's not easy to build a new wine brand. And I don't, and somebody said to me last year, yes, you're my special occasion wine. I said, I want to be your everyday wine. We'll make change when it's not on a special occasion that you're thinking about us.
Exactly.
When you're thinking about when you buy wine or you're going to gift wine, are you buying it from a woman-owned and run company that creates sustainably farmed and produced wines that gives back 10% of profits to charities that are making a difference in the world?
There you go.
Yeah, but this is, yes.
And Jill, the other side of this is that when I do that, or when you do that, folks, you are also being philanthropic to all those places. That's the human net that I'm always talking about. You throw your net out, right? Yes. It's and the further it goes, the more things that you are able to be a part of without even being physically there. You know what I mean? And that's how I look at it. When people ask me if I'm philanthropic, I'm like, oh yeah, because I make a point of only purchasing. And this is only recent, so don't think that I've lived my whole life this way, because I think that sometimes when people hear us speak about this is an evolution. I got to this place where I will not buy stuff from an organization or a company that does not do something for someone else, because I want my dollars spent that way. That's what I always tell you. It's like, you have a choice. We have enough brands, oh golly gee, that you can make a choice to support, organizations and companies and women-owned companies. You can do that. And you know what? Sometimes I do have to go without.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do, and that's okay. And you know what? Sacrifice is good for our bellies, just like fasting is good for us, right?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, but this is a daily practice like everything else.
Yes.
When I was talking, when you heard me speak, I was talking about how we need to tap into our head, heart, and gut, and you need to make that a daily practice, right? Because science says there are three brains. Our head is a brain, our heart is a brain, and our gut is a brain. But our heart and our gut actually fire faster than our brains. So we, as women, we always feel our gut first.
Yep.
But we have habitually pushed that away, and we don't pay enough attention to it, because traditional ways of leading have said, business decisions should be made rationally, and then we shouldn't be relying on our gut, and emotions have nothing to do with it, and decisions should be based on lots of research and thoughtful research and analysis and things like that. But we know when we stop and take a pause and check in with our three brains, we know when we make decisions that are in full alignment, that it takes care of everyone. And for me, that's where, hey, even before making a purchase, it's like, is this an impulse purchase, or am I really being intentional about what I'm doing? And I think it's time that we as women, because we're 51% of the population, we have got to question all of the marketing that has been spewed at us since we were 8 years old. As even Glennon Doyle says, right? That's why one of my first bottle of red wine was called Untamed, because I read her book as I was building Teneral Cellars, because I had become tamed. But girls in general, the world starts to tame us from the time we're 8. What to wear, what to say, how to look, how to dress, all of that. And that is, I grew up as a tomboy. So I was always pushing that envelope because I wanted to play football. I wanted to get dirty. I wanted to climb trees and ride skateboards and cut my knees and all of that, and I realized that so much of what we have learned is it's marketing, it's all these and so we just have to take a stop for a second, because it's not rocket science what we have to do to make a change. We actually control for the first time the wealth in this country. Sorry, we have the most wealth as women. We don't control it because we have men controlling the investments. Exactly. So we have everything we need. We just have to collectively come together, and that's that rising tides lift all boats. And so I just, for me, I'm trying to build a brand, but I want people to be conscious and intentional about let's show the wine industry, and then let's do it everywhere else, like what a brand looks like if it truly reflected its largest consumer. And again, not easy. It's tough. And I'm a type A, right? I'm a high D, high I. So I'm just like,
I know. But the other thing is, Jill, that, this whole phenomenon that happened, because I am in my 60s, and I remember being told that if I wanted to be in business, because that's what I chose to do, I chose to do that before coming to the nonprofit world, was that I had to be like a man. So I remember, and I actually have these photographs of myself, and my poor children are like, who is that woman? And I am dressed with this suit on where the
shoulder pads
and cut and and I was a smoker. I was okay. And even to that commercial, I always think of it where the woman has the baby on her arm. She's got a spatula in her hand and a briefcase hanging, and it's she can bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But we turned on each other.
Yes.
By that, in that very moment in our history as women, we moved into this space where we became our worst enemies to each other by our language and how we spoke to each other. And we stopped advocating for each other because we were afraid that people would say, oh, she only does this and she only does this for the women or whatever. And so the tide has to turn in order for us to really collectively come together without the criticism and feeling harm by the very place where we should find comfort.
Yes, without question. And And to that point, I mean, it's interesting. Like yes, I'm a high D, high I, but I'm also driven by altruism, and I have a very soft side of me. And there's the passion that drives me, but we need to tap into all of that, right? Because I think for so long I questioned speaking about what my heart said or my gut, because again, trying to fit into this older system of, operating system, there's no question that sports helped me be successful because I could play in that space.
Right.
But it wasn't where I ever felt truly aligned, completely aligned. Right. And so, and for me to be operating my brilliance, I have to be, checking in with my heart and my gut, and in addition to my head. And so, it is time. And as I said at the top of, this podcast, I mean, it's, what we do in this moment will define the next chapter of our collective story. And so what do we want that to be as women, as a country? We need to heal and evolve right now, and we need more caring and compassion and coming together, because we have been seeing more disruption and discourse and disconnection in the last 2 years than most of us have seen in a lifetime. And it's really scary. I mean, we're seeing what we used to watch in TV shows and like, oh, that could never happen. Well, it's happening. So we need to be, conscious of that. And I maybe it's because I grew up playing sports that I grew up on very diverse teams, and have just believed that, whether it's a diversity of thoughts and experiences, and voices, but I just feel like if we all come together, we can collectively solve this, because it's so important. And there's facts that say businesses perform better when they have, diverse cultures and teams and voices and experiences, and our world and our country, why would that be any different?
That's right. And in this time, Jill, when you're, looking at the vision and the future for Teneral Cellars, down the road, we will come out of this pandemic. We're still in the pandemic, folks. I keep trying to tell you, we're not done, but we will come out of it, and how, when you're looking at the Teneral Cellars future with this new paradigm, because we will come out one way or the other, either understanding we're all in this together, or we'll have some more moments of crashing into each other. Where do you see Teneral Cellars and maybe even yourself in that conversation? I know we've talked a lot about moving from debate to courageous conversations where we're speaking with our heart, which, by the way, folks, I've told you, the heart actually does have its own little tiny brain, research shows, so go look it up. How do we go there, and how do you see your Teneral Cellars and the folks that you partner with moving into that?
Well, I think we built a brand. Yes, we launched during COVID, but the brand is way beyond COVID. So a lot of what we do, we do wine. Anyone can buy wine on our website. Anyone can join our Swarm Wine Club and get the quarterly wine releases. But we also do a lot of work with companies so that we do virtual wine experiences. We could also do them in person, but virtual is so easy because even as things open up, companies still are allowing a lot of, the virtual workplace is not going away. And so companies have people all over, they need connection. And so we actually have these experiences. They could be 60 to 90 minutes. They could just be about tasting wine. But OT Bermond, who you met at the East Bay Women's Conference, she leads up our DE and and belonging efforts, our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And so she does trainings where teams will come together virtually, will taste wine, and then she'll open up the conversation so that teams can get closer. They can understand how they're showing up in the world with their conscious and unconscious biases. Have exercises that bring people together, and it's great for team building. And so that's one kind of experience we do. We do other experiences where companies sign up for quarterly conversations and literally align them with the conversations we're having around our releases. So first quarter would have been around the 208 study. This quarter would be a Title IX discussion. Next quarter could be, will be whatever we end up releasing. But these are great ways for companies to engage. I also publicly speak is how you met me. And so a lot of times we'll do a combination of maybe there's a virtual wine experience, and then I'm talking to your women's leadership team the next day on how to lead with your head, heart, and gut so that you could tap into full capacity thinking. The other thing we have a lot of corporate gifting, and corporate gifting isn't just year-end gifting, but our belief is that corporations and individuals should give gifts that reflect their values. And so giving the gift of Teneral Cellars reflects that you care about supporting a women-owned and run business, that you care about giving back to charities and organizations that are making a difference in the world, and that you're gifting wines that care about the environment as well because they're sustainably farmed and produced. And so we do a lot of those things. We're doing a lot more events. We just got our WeBank certification. So as a certified women-owned business, we're also looking to expand and be part of, people hold conferences, especially if they are conferences for women. What is the wine that you're serving from the hotel? I mean, we need to start demanding that hotels are serving wines from a women-owned business. And so we're looking at more wholesale opportunities like that. I don't want to go into the 3-tier distribution system yet because it's a broken system. What people don't realize is that you walk into a Safeway or a major grocery chain, and 90% of those wines are owned by 5 companies. And so it's very difficult for younger brands to penetrate in an effective way. And so we want to build by going direct to consumer first, and then really expanding the brand into some wholesale or retail chains. For me, as I grow this business, I mean, I love what I do and I do what I love. So, I mean, I'm sitting at our vineyard right now, so I it's not a bad gig, but I would love to speak more and get out and really lift up and empower women. And right now it's working beautifully because they go hand in hand with Teneral Cellars. But as we grow, I would love to lift up women and women that want to ultimately run this company. It's interesting. It's funny too, as we go through this whole world of HR, right?
Yeah.
I want to bring women of color into my business. I can't necessarily advertise for that. So I could say it here though. Hey, if you know any phenomenal women of color that love to sell and that also care about closing the gender gap and are passionate about that, I am interested in finding ambassadors that want to help us in this business. But I plan on creating a beautifully diverse team. And at some point for me to just sort of step up in more of a chairman role at some point. But I believe we can build a $50 million, $100 million business. And so the better we do, the more we can, hire more people in this company and women of color, and the more that we can spread, financially impact other charities that are doing great work. And so I want to be the best practice in the wine industry for what a diverse company looks like that truly reflects the industry's largest customer.
I love it. And I know our viewers, listeners, because we're also Spreaker and all that. But tell folks, because I love the virtual wine experience. We did a virtual wine tasting with Black Vines, which is an organization over here in Alameda County that brings Black-owned wineries or sponsored wineries together. And people loved it. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
But this added piece of also collaborating and creating discussion space for equity and inclusion, I think is so important because Jill, you know this, having been an athlete, and I was an athlete also, so I know this, is that we sometimes get all of this energy. It's like out the chute on something, and learning how to pace it.
Yeah.
So that you don't think you've won the race before you've won the race, means being engaged in conversation along the whole process. It's not, let's do it just because today 21 children were murdered, because the gun problem is still the gun problem when you forget And I'm not beating you up, folks, but that's who we are as human beings, because, you know, we also forgot about the 10 people in the grocery store. You know what I mean? It's like the further away we get from our fire moment, the less effective we become as advocates. So what Jill is talking about is creating spaces, which I love, that are relaxing. You know how I feel about breaking bread, table. I think those are the places. My friend Marlon Hall does that, where he brings change makers and change thinkers together over food and wine, not in a conference room.
Right.
Okay. Because that changes the way you look at the topic.
Yeah. Well, and the fact is, wine and food, I mean, it helps you relax and open up. And, you know, I got into the wine industry because I love how wine connects people. And so for me, it just was, you know, this natural extension or evolution of, you know, why not use wine as a conduit for change, so that, because the best conversations I've ever had, there's been a bottle or two or three of wine on the table. And so, and even if people don't, you know, there's with companies, if people don't drink, you know, we'll send them something non-alcoholic, because it's really about being part of the discussion and creating that place and that space to have these conversations. And you know, we're, you know, we also have a partnership with the Cheese School of San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah, and Janine Egan is the owner, so it's women owned, and they're out of the Ghirardelli Square, one of the old historic buildings. And so she's our partner on this Title IX release. And so she's pairing cheeses with our wine from only women-owned women cheesemakers, and putting beautiful boxes together, because in the summer we're all thinking about our charcuterie boards.
Exactly.
But those are like, we can create experiences like that too, where she'll ship the cheese, we've got wine. So they're really customized to create that space and conversations that are right for whatever the company is looking for. And so
So do folks go just to the website? I mean, not just to, but do people go to the website to find all of these different levels of your menu?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. So there's a gifting page, there's wine experiences. There's a couple of examples, but then we really can customize and, you know, for whatever works for you. Like a lot of things with our corporate gifting, companies literally send us the cards to put in the box so that there's a higher touch in there. So we'll do a full service concierge program to make it work for, for companies on the gifting side. We also have partnered with a phenomenal woman who designed a test that you can take to identify what your unique wine palette is. And so, it takes 20 seconds to take the test. It will shoot you back information and the wines on our website that pair perfectly with your unique palette. And then when you click on the wines, when they come back, it'll show you, you know, is it high in minerality or acidity? Where's the residual sugar level? We don't add any sugar or concentrate in our wines, so typically ours are pretty low or at zero. And so, but it helps you understand what your palate is, and it also makes suggestions on wines maybe that you've never tried. So maybe our Vermentino is a perfect match for you, and you're like, Vermentino, right? And so, and they have millions of data points around the country and the world, but they've also tested all of our wines. So it's a really fun way too, when people want to give a gift, is give a gift card and then this QR code to take the test, because you might send them your favorite wine, but everyone has a unique palate, and we want people to enjoy the wine that is perfect for them.
So give them the information so that the website, I think I just looked it up.
It's TeneralCellars.com. So it's TeneralCellars.com. I think my Teneral Cellars sign is behind me as well, if anyone needs to know how to spell it. So everything's online, and we literally ship using FedEx. So you'll get, in California, you'll get your wine within 2 days, and a couple more days if it's going to the East Coast. But very efficient, and we use a women-owned and run fulfillment house, which is amazing. There are very few female-owned suppliers in the wine industry, so we've been very intentional about finding them and using them. Our label, So it's. But you know what? It's great when you can know that you're supporting other women-owned businesses.
Yes, and being the executive director here at Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay, we also know that the women are our primary caregivers in the world, providing care for their loved ones, family, neighbors, all of that. And, every space that we see service and nurturing and building and doing and all of that, women are there. And to create opportunities where they can create passion and be their best selves. Teneral Cellars and Jill Osur and her team. OT, tell OT I said hello.
I will.
It's just all of these things where it's got to be, you guys. We got to stop talking about it. The other day I started crying in the car, Jill, because I was listening to Tracy Chapman, The Promise. Whenever I want to cry, that's my song.
Yeah, that's a good one to cry to.
Yeah, right. I had to cry, so I popped it in. And by the time I got to the tunnel to get to the other side of the bay, I realized that we've got to do this now. It's not like we have a moment for tomorrow. The earth is crying out to us. That's saying, take better care of me. And instead of saying, oh, we have droughts and not understanding, come on, we need to help children to feel safe. Come on, we need women to feel safe and that people won't just do crap to them just because they have their challenges and issues. We need to get rid of and dismantle racism because it is the bottom of the thing for all of this discord. When we really rip apart the systems, we begin to see that racism is the catalyst for a lot of it, and other people just get popped in there because of either economics or all of these other things. The time is now. I just think that young people, I know my 23-year-old daughter is saying to me, what up? All the time she says to me, Mommy, what up? You guys marched, you did all this stuff, but what happened? And I said, you know what happens with everything? It's like when you learn how to, I'm learning how to play the guitar. This is an example. All my whole life, I'm like, I want to play the acoustic guitar. It's very cool. Okay. So I buy the acoustic guitar. I start taking the lessons. The minute I learn how to play one song, I lost it.
Yeah.
And that happens to us. It's not a bad thing. I'm not putting anybody down, but I totally lost interest. I met the goal. I want to learn how to play the guitar. There you go. But I didn't say to my brain, I want to learn how to play the guitar because I want it to become a part of my existence. I want to create beautiful music from it for as long as I live.
Yes.
I would have approached my learning a little bit different. I accomplished my goal, peeps.
Yeah.
But the beautiful guitar is sitting on a stand in a room all by itself and hasn't been touched for months.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah. Well, that's why we need to be conscious and intentional every day about, how many of us wake up in the morning and literally have a plan for, what we're going to do to be part of the change every day. Yeah. And that needs to be part of our internal conversations as much as it is brushing our teeth in the morning, and consistent for the rest of our lives.
The rest of our lives.
There's enough things to fight for that it will take the rest of our lives.
Won't it, Jill?
Yeah,
So
which is unfortunate, but yes.
It is unfortunate, but you know what? We can make a dent.
Yes.
And we know how we feel when we're at a kite festival or a fair where you look around and you smell all kinds of food, you see all kinds of different colored drinks and alcoholic, non-alcoholic, you see little children running around, you see all the hues of every individual on the face of the planet, you see different gender, you see people that are so colorful, you're like wondering, did they, like that? Yeah. That's a wonderful world, you guys.
Yes.
And you know how you go home at the end of the day. You're like, wow, it was worth going and paying the ticket for that. Wow, I feel good. Oh, I'm so tired. I feel filled. And that's because you have been and had a moment of the snapshot of humanity that Jill and Teneral Cellars and her vision and the vision of her tribe and the people around her are trying to build. Teneral Cellars can be found, you can go to the website, you can have virtual wine experiences. I love that idea. I love the gift giving idea. I love all of it. And if you are a young woman out there that, wow, this last 2 years you graduated from college and you're like, okay, what up? I didn't even get to walk across the stage, right? But you still are dreaming and you think that, hey, you know what? I just heard something this morning about wine. Never even thought about it. Never thought that it was something that I could do. Do some homework and then get in contact with Jill and do some question. We used to have a book, peeps, that was called What Color Is Your Parachute? I don't know what happened to that book, but it's a great book. If you can find it, I think it's out of print. But it used to say, and that book said, and I read it in the 70s, it said, be inquisitive about every possible career that you could possibly land at. Call the people and interview them.
Yes. You know what? Email anyone listening. Email me at jill@teneralcellars.com. I would love to speak with you. And I would say to everyone listening, if you care, about women's equality, about closing the gender gap, and about supporting other women, I would encourage you to consider joining our Swarm Club so that every quarter you'll get, these different releases. And guess what? That's an excuse for you to have a bunch of people over and have a party and drink wine and have great conversations. Open a bottle, open a conversation. But by doing that, if you're a member of wine clubs now, are any of them women-owned and run? Are any of them giving back 10% to charities that are empowering women and fighting for racial and social justice? Are they sustainably farmed and produced so that it's the purest and cleanest of wines with no pesticides, chemicals, and no sugar concentrate added? So, support that. And they're great gifts to give. They're just great excuse to open it up. But you also get 20 to 30% off, not only on your quarterly wine club shipments, but then you actually, anytime you go on the site, you get those discounts. So we would love your support, but we're a mission. We were a mission before we were a wine brand, but this brand can make a difference. And we would love for people to, be conscious and intentional and give us support and help us be the change that we all want to see. And then we will have down below, not right now, but when Felicia takes this and does the production madness, there will she'll put all that information. So you'll see how to get involved. And if you would like to join me in a swarm, email me or email Life is a Sacred Journey and let us know. And we can maybe create our own swarm together. I love the idea of that, right? I love being a part of a swarm. Absolutely. I love the idea. And the energy that dragonflies bring. And and I love that. I love that. I am a tattoo girl, so I have to be careful. Every time I fall in love with something, I end up with a tattoo. But you know what, guys? It's Memorial Day weekend, and we want to thank Jill for coming on this morning to Life is a Sacred Journey. We want to thank all of you for showing up. Do something for someone else today. Let it be a stranger. Let it be somebody who you do not know. And you know what? Even dig deeper if you can. Let it be for somebody who you thought you might not like. Because that's where the change happens. All right. Jill, please hang on for a minute. We want to thank Jill Osur for coming. Teneral Cellars, please get in contact with them. There's so many ways that you can become a member. You can use it for your company. You can send it as gifts to loved ones. And when you do that, you will be investing in a different world. For women of color, for everybody, because guess what? When we all succeed, everybody succeeds, and that's what it's all about. That's why Kathy Kamai and Jill and I are coming together. This is not by mistake, guys. I always tell you this. Everybody that comes on Life is a Sacred Journey. It's the universe bringing us together. It's not Michelle Pope. Don't get it twisted. I'm not that good. But at the end of the day, when we all come together, the messaging here at Life is a Sacred Journey is be the change, be the light, and be intentional and honor other people. Honor them. So go out,
hug a tree. You know how I feel about the trees. And this weekend, you have an extra day. Sit down and read to the tree, and then sit there silently and listen to the response. It might change your life forever. It definitely will change that moment. Hug a dog, pet a cat, be good to yourself, hug yourself, love yourself, look in the mirror and say, I am wonderfully made. And no matter what happens today, I am still here and I can make the world a better place. If you are somebody out there that is feeling pain, because I know you are, and you think that life right this second, you want to take your life. I do this every Friday. Call the 1-800-273-8255 suicide hotline. I have been there. I thought that I didn't matter. I thought that my Blackness would be better off not on this earth because the world hated me for some reason I didn't understand. But you know what happened? Somebody told me I was wrong. And in that moment, I changed forever. It took a long struggle. It took a long struggle, but look it. Live for another day. Do not take your life, because you know what? It is precious and somebody out there is waiting to help you. 1-800-273-8255. Okay. Hang on for another minute. Hang on. Okay. I know this world sucks right now from your perspective and where you're looking out at it. 1-800-273-8255. But you're wonderful and you'll make it. We love you. Have a good weekend, everybody. Jill, thank you so much for being my new best buddy, friend, sister friend. Because when I say sister friend, I mean it. Okay. Amen. All right, you guys. Have a good weekend. Jill, hold on. Take care, everybody. Love you. Peace.